Hey Earth Guardians, it's Serpentine, your guide through the game of life. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are talking about Mars in Cancer Part 1. This is going to be a whole saga that we're going to be going through from around this time of year, around October 20th through June. But this first part is going to be talking about the initial transit of Mars into Cancer before the retrograde begins. So let's get into it. Mars in Cancer Part 1. Vision Quest Initiation. Stay grounded as a massive third eye activation opens up greater receptivity to powerful visions and downloads. Cultivate a deeper connection to your divinity to move beyond fear and confusion. Embracing the adventure of self-discovery will help you write a new story for yourself. Inner child / sacral chakra healing can grant you access to foundational insight / knowledge. Use your tools. What I mean by use your tools is you have tools that are languishing. They need to be used. This can be technology. This can be any kind of spiritual tool that you have. Your crystals, your cards, your whatever, your practices. These are all tools that you have, and they're asking you to use them as you embark on this vision quest of your third eye opening and gaining more insight into what this new chapter is for you. So we're going to head on over to the observatory and talk a little more about what's going on in the sky. You can see here Mars in Cancer with the glowing star. Interestingly, at the exact time that Mars goes into Cancer, which happened on October 20th, 2024, so like yesterday from the day of this recording, the ascendant was in Australasia, pretty close to the Gandanta, which is why the notion of embracing this vision quest, embracing this activation of your third eye receptivity is going to be key, because Australasia is the clinging star, and it's about what is it that you are holding on to and what is it that you are letting go of, and how can we discern the difference between those two things. We also want to note here that Mars is the ruler of Scorpio, where Venus is right now. Venus is the ruler of Libra, where Sun and Mercury are right now and where the new moon's going to be. So there's a deep underlying influence that this Mars in Cancer will have on all of that. Now, Mars is technically debilitated in Cancer, but that just means that it functions unusually. Like, your results will vary depending on like what your chart is specifically. But I do think overall that this is activating a significant detox of the collective mother wound. And I mentioned this in another video. I think I mentioned it in the Venus and Scorpio video. Again, a lot of my videos kind of overlap with the themes, so definitely go check out some of those videos if that speaks to you. But because Cancer is like the ruler or like the sign associated with the mother, it's ruled by the moon. It also talks about like homeland and your country and your home. So there can be collective themes around that going on. And even though this part of Mars in Cancer is through December 6th, this whole situation with Mars going retrograde after that, for quite some time, it will go back into Gemini very briefly for a little bit before it goes direct back into Cancer. And so this whole thing is going to be lasting until June. So this is going to be a long running story because it's not really normal for Mars to spend so much time mostly in one sign. And that's why it's going to be important to just continually check in with this, which is why I'm breaking it up into just these different parts, because it makes it a bit more digestible, especially since Mars is the ruler of the solar plexus chakra, which talks a lot about our ability to metabolize and digest our experiences. And when we have it in the third eye chakra, it's like, how are we making decisions based on new information that we are getting, especially as a huge theme right now is mass revelations, things coming to light, exposures, We're going to be talking even more about that on Wednesday when I give the new moon reading, because that was like very front and center for that reading. And so because Cancer is like the receptive chamber of the third eye chakra, and Mars has to do with our ability to take action, it's really talking about an extended period of time where we are undergoing a review, an activation of our third eye, and a review of how we ultimately tangibly act upon the insight that we are continuously gleaning and things like that, just on a macro level. We do have Jupiter and the moon and Uranus in Taurus opposing Venus at the time of this transit. And of course, like the notion that like the Scorpio and Aries houses are going to be important to pay attention to, because Mars rules those houses. So if you go and figure out your chart and you can figure out like what ascendant you are, and you want to find out what house Cancer is for you, and then what house Aries and Scorpio is for you, and you'll have a better idea of like the specific domain of your life that's being impacted by this transit, specifically how your Aries house and your Scorpio house themes are manifesting through your Cancer house, and what kind of review you're undergoing there, and how you're acting upon information you're getting around that, and that kind of thing. And we're going to see too what comes through, of course, in the reading, which we can get to right now. So let's get into it. For the underlying energy, we have the sun. And it's interesting because if I recall correctly, the sun and the moon both came out for my pre-stream divination. They have also both come out for this 5-card spread. And the reason why I even called this Vision Quest initiation is because, like, knowing that Mars is transiting the sign of Cancer ruled by the moon, which is the receptive chamber of the third eye. The sun is the active chamber of the third eye. So even though Mars is not in Leo for this, it will be going into Leo after this, right? And so there is a significant third eye situation going on here in general that I think is going to be talking about both chambers of the third eye, even though one is getting particularly heightened by this, the receptive chamber of the third eye. So with the sun coming out here, this is also about like I was talking about earlier, the solar plexus too. So it's kind of like we are coming into a greater awareness about an area of our life. And because this is also starting around the time and overlapping a lot with the new moon in Swati, and also Mars's fourth special aspect is aspecting the sun, which will be dealing with the new moon in Swati, and Mercury to a certain extent. It's also about having the awareness of knowing what is the path of the greatest sovereignty and freedom for us, and from that place wanting to take action to have our life reflect that in our outer experience. And that's why we're going on this vision quest, because it's like we are embracing this adventure of self-discovery to write a new story for ourselves, like I say in the thing. And now it's going to be about what is this self-discovery uncovering within us? Like, what is this foundational insight and knowledge? And what are the nature of these downloads on a more like detailed level that we're going to be getting into with all of this is kind of what I'm getting at here. Now, obviously, this is going to apply to people's lives in very different ways, which is why I suggest downloading Cosmic Insights, and you can see what house Cancer is for you, and tangentially, like what houses these other signs are for you that I'm referencing. But for awareness, we have the Page of Cups in reverse. Honestly, I'm seeing a lot of this reading talk about relationships come up pretty strongly in this. So like this can be talking about coming into awareness of either opportunities from your past that you did not fully get off the ground, that you are sort of needing to like process some emotions around. It can be about feeling like certain relationships are no longer meeting your needs and needing to make adjustments in that area of your life. It can be about like things that you have invested in emotionally just not really hitting like they used to, and needing to have a journey within to see what is going to be fulfilling you. And that's something that has been a recurring theme coming up with the Jupiter situation. And I do think that in this sense, it's kind of like highlighting then like what are the actions that we need to take specifically to have our new sense of self that we are discovering around what our desires are and what our needs are and what will fulfill us and stuff like that. Needing to, I think, process some emotions around that, because for integration, we have 10 of Swords. And this is talking about needing to really sit with what's coming up in your emotional body. Because again, even though this is the third eye, it's also all of the nakshatras in Cancer are connected to the heart chakra. So there is definitely a lot of feels that need to come up to be felt in order for us to move through this time without bypassing the work that's required here. It's like Mars is debilitated in Cancer because it doesn't really want to have to deal with its feelings, I feel like. And this is kind of one of those things where it's like we have to show up and deal with our feelings in a way that's going to be serving us and organic to our growth and stuff like that. There is, I think, an invitation here to use your creative skills and tools in whatever way you can to help you process what's coming up so that you don't get too lost in the sauce or distracted with the things that are coming up, because ultimately they're coming up to help you make better choices in how you're conducting yourself and your life and your relationships moving forward, and your creativity and your career and whatever it is for you. Because again, like it's kind of like with the whole mass revelations thing, underlying theme going on with a lot of the readings, it's like the truth will set you free, but the truth can also hurt at the same time. So it's kind of like both. It's like it's not going to be like getting out of jail, like the jailbreak is never going to be without its challenges, you know, like we're Shawshank Redemptioning a little bit out of some stuff right now, and that can be brutal and exhausting to kind of go through or whatever. And ultimately, I think the reason why it's bringing up a lot of emotions and stuff is because we have for choice 2 of Cups in reverse. So this is dealing with having to make decisions to end certain relationships and certain jobs and certain creative projects, and also just in general having to be very intentional around choosing to engage in shadow work, because whenever we are going through periods of self-discovery and we're shining a light on aspects of ourselves that we have maybe overlooked or neglected or forgotten about or whatever, we can find that we illuminate these shadows as well within ourselves. So it's like we're not exempt from this work of, you know, breaking up with who we used to be in order to find out who we truly are in a certain sense. And generally speaking, a lot of times when you go through periods of time like that, it also really impacts your relationships, because your relationships show up as a reflection of who you are at any given time. And, you know, when we're going through identity shifts, especially with this whole, like, you know, eclipse season ending, wrapping up and shifting into what the aftermath of that is, like, there is a whole identity reboot component to that. And it just kind of feels like this is going to be a big moment where people are choosing themselves versus like choosing other people at the expense of themselves, because that's kind of what healing the mother wound is all about, is like really ditching the martyr complex and any relationships or jobs or whatever that are like triggering those templates and stuff like that. Is something that's coming up here as well. This really seems to be dealing with a lot of like the emotionality of what's going to be coming up, and then kind of translating that to making decisions based on who you feel is like good and safe and like ready and appropriate for you to be keeping in your energy field, so to speak. And also because like we have Mars in Cancer, and then Cancer was also the rising sign with Ashleisha. Ashleisha is about like letting go, learning to let go in many ways. And there are snakes that come up on this card with the Ten of Swords. Like this is very kind of Ashleisha vibes, where it's like you can let go or be dragged. And that's your choice when you go into the initiation, you know what I mean? Because an initiation is basically when new information becomes available to you that like shakes up what you previously knew, and you need to like adjust accordingly. And these are things that as you advance on the path, they become a lot more nuanced and complex, and you have to really be resourceful within yourself when you're navigating all that kind of thing. And especially when we have results, we have the moon come up for result. So just like in the pre-stream divination, we have both luminaries, the sun and the moon, which really just serves to highlight this third eye activation. And it also serves to highlight the mystery. I think that we're going to be going into Mars retrograde, because again, this is for the lead up to Mars retrograde. So like Mars in Cancer part 1, we're on this on-ramp of like realizing what relationships and various things that we have invested in emotionally are not really working for us anymore, and moving through an emotional process of releasing that from our field and making concrete decisions to break up with who we used to be, and break up with certain people, and break up with certain jobs, whatever it is. And then we get to enter into the mystery of what's next. And I think that there's a part of this where it's like to be continued ... You know what I mean? Because it's like moon is the ruling sign of Cancer, and it changes every 2.5 days. So like the nature of your Mars and Cancer experience will be fluctuating every 2.5 days. Really every day, because the moon changes nakshatras every day. So it's like keeping track of the moon is going to be really important in order to gauge where you're at any given point. And so again, if you download Cosmic Insights, you go in there every morning, you'll see where the moon is, what nakshatra the moon is in right now. Right now, we have the moon over in Ardra, which is a pretty intense star, not gonna lie. It's pretty transformational, ruled by Rahu. But the more you keep track of that during this time, the greater grasp you'll have on kind of like where you're at with this story, because it will be having an influence. And also, I think in general, like this is a time to really like lean into your creativity, because the moon does represent like the imagination and intuition. And a lot of times when we finally like cut the cord with this like, you know, 10 of Swords and this 2 of Cups in reversed thing, a lot of times when we finally cut the cord with certain relationships or jobs or things that have been taking up a lot of like emotional and energetic real estate, we then have a lot more of our own energy. Like we are more free then to pursue the things that really do matter to us, and we will have a surge back of our energy, I think, in general, towards being able to funnel that into other things. And it's going to be important to really embrace the mystery, embrace the unknown, and trust that, because there's a whole process that's happening with this. Again, it's going until June, and this is only just the beginning. So when you consider it an initiation into becoming more woke and aware in your third eye and like having important information delivered to you because you are creating the space for that to come in, and really like considering it to be a bit of an adventure where you're able to go beyond your preconceived limits because you're no longer agreeing to be in certain conditions that are reinforcing said limits, the better. And yeah, there can be fear that comes up where it's like, who am I without this person? Who am I without this job? You know, who am I, etc. You know what I mean? Like the eternal mystery of like, to be or not to be, like that is the question a little bit. Like, I think that when you consider that when you kind of take this as like an opportunity to really be in your main character energy and seize the opportunity of the mindset of all possibilities are inherent in the unknown, and instead of freaking out about the fact that there are so many possibilities that are in the unknown, it's like we can get excited or we can get anxious. And I think that they kind of want you to get excited rather than go into the fear around your ego not knowing what's next kind of thing. We got oracles. From the Galactic Heritage deck, we had a jumper. This one is Initiation and Ceremony, which is so perfect because I titled this Vision Quest Initiation. So like this is an initiation. For those who are on the mystical path, just be aware that it's a time that can be very sensitive, because again, when we have Auschleisha Ascendant, and eventually Mars will be going into Auschleisha as well, which is the star of the Nagas, the serpents. And when you shed your skin, you know, from one version of yourself to the next, it's a very sensitive time and it can be vulnerable. So it is recommended to kind of honor this time with intention and just be aware that this is like a threshold of awareness that you are entering into as of literally yesterday of this recording, but like October 20th, like keep a note, because this is going to be something that you might want to look back on, and you'll be able to see from a distance kind of like what the arc has been in retrospect. And then also Pulse of Life Galactic Core. This is actually, in my opinion, a direct reference to a sub-period of this period, which I need to actually find what those dates are because I don't know them offhand. But when we see Galactic Core, this is talking about Mula Nakshatra. And so it's going to be important to be aware of two times. One is when Moon transits Mula Nakshatra next. In Sagittarius, it's the Gandanta zone between Jeshta and Mula, like the Scorpio Sagittarius border. It's on the Sagittarius side. So you want to be aware of when Moon transits during that place, because it's going to be very much giving like this Ten of Swords vibe, endings. It is kind of like where things go to die a little bit. It's the black hole, but it's also like the womb where like new life is born, like our galactic core and everything. So it's got a bit of a Kali energy, let's put it that way. It's like Kali energy. So when the Moon transits there, it's going to be channeling those energies over to Mars in Cancer. Also, Venus is going to be going into Mula the day after the election, and it will be there for a chunk of November. I just don't know how many days that is. I can put it on the screen when I figure it out after I make this video on YouTube. But I think this is a sign that you really want to pay particular attention to when that Mula is activated, because that's going to be a lot. I think it will be, ramping up the initiation vibes, because ultimately the Jeshta Mula Gandant point is about the initiation into the spiritual life, part of the journey through the nakshatras, and going beyond the material and really aspiring towards like higher spiritual ideals and your dharma and your path and all that kind of thing. We also have from my goddess oracle, Coventina Purification. It is time for a cleansing detoxification of your body and mind. Again, that's very much going back to a lot of this like Ten of Swords energy, where you know, just it's important to just be aware that this is a time where you're shedding more, And it's going to be important to just like honor that process and understand that it's going to be coming and going in waves because of the moon's fluctuations. So again, I do recommend just being aware of where the moon is at any given time, because when the moon's in a more challenging place, it'll produce a bit more challenging results. But if it's in a more supportive place, you might just get a little bit of a break in the detox and stuff. And there are things you can do to kind of help you with this. Like Mars is all about the willpower and things like that. So if you're breaking up with who you used to be, it's a good time to start to program in the new actions and routines and things that you want to center in your life and have some self-discipline around that. And you can include your health in this. Like it's a good time to kind of be on top of like your vitality and things like that to help support your energy body in breaking up with these old energies. We also have Butterfly from my Animal Spirit Oracle deck. Obviously, like you are in a process of transforming, but this is really, I think, helping us understand that even though we may not know exactly where things are going, we are going to be achieving a end result of our own inner self-discovery, and to not fear that what we're leaving behind is going to keep us from truly becoming who we're meant to be and stuff like that. And of course, we have trust coming up here as well. So it's like just trust in the unknown, trust in the process of your transformation that is happening and ongoing right now. And lastly here for the oracles, at least that I drew, we have some more cards from the bottoms of the decks. We have Softly, Softly, the Tender Touch. So this is just an invitation to be gentle with yourself as you are processing any kind of pain, grief, old stagnant energies, etc., etc., etc. Like with this purification card and trust and the butterfly and like the pulse of life, it's just like they're acknowledging that it's not going to be entirely, you know, pleasant, so to speak, but it can be cathartic in a supportive way if you just show up for yourself and not like be hard on yourself for it already being hard. You know what I mean? Like if it's already hard, like don't be hard on yourself even more. Just accept that it is what it is and be kind to yourself and be compassionate to yourself, because you know, with energies like this and, you know, like breakup vibes and stuff, it's like we don't want to make it harder than it needs to be. And again, that's just like that martyr complex clearing vibes where it's like we already know it's hard. We don't need to make it harder for ourselves just because we want to prove that we are, you know, like a good person for struggling or something like that. You know, it doesn't need to be worse than it already is. And you just can trust also that there is, you know, light at the end of the tunnel as well, and that this is just the first part of an ongoing process that is meant to help you achieve, you know, a greater sense of, you know, self-worth and connection to your own divinity and connection to like your own truth and embodiment of that and all that kind of thing that's happening underneath all of this. And at the bottoms of the decks, we have the Six of Swords. So like we're moving on, the light at the end of the tunnel, literally. Like Six of Swords is talking about being in the aftercare, moving on from a difficult situation. I think that even though there will be a lot unknown still, by the end of this first part, we will be feeling somewhat optimistic in knowing that we are going towards something that will be greater than what we're leaving behind. And we also have here two interesting cards. Hathor Receptivity, we've seen this recently as well. And then the Receiving card coming out. This is the receptive chamber of the third eye. It's going to be very important to allow yourself to spend time cultivating receptivity so that you can welcome in what wants to come through into your experience, especially when it comes to creativity, because there is creative communication coming up here, as well as the zebra, where you're being invited to participate in this experience in a new way And when you receive what you are meant to receive during this time, intuitively, in visions and dreams and ideas and inspirations, even in new connections, it can really be anything. It can be a new income stream even. You never know. It's then going to be up to you to use those resources and contribute in a unique way with them towards a higher ideal that you're aspiring to in this new chapter. And that's how you're going to be able to kind of start to ground this transformation, because we do have Earth appearing here. It kind of popped up in reverse, but it's just like going to be important to like continuously stay grounded, especially because like this can be triggering people's emotional bodies pretty hard. So you want to be really focusing on being in your body and not getting too carried away, especially if you're getting really blasted, like really activated. You really want to be able to like ground yourself and like be able to bring those insights and downloads, back to Earth and be able to plant them as seeds and stuff like that. And this will kind of help be a vehicle for you to move into this new vista. And then beneath that, we have unicorn popping up here too. So again, major third eye vibes. So I think this is a time to where, even though it might be challenging, there might be some hard things that come up and hard decisions that you will have to be making with regards to, I would say, relationships in particular, but it can really talk about anything that you are investing your creative energy into, and even of course like the idea that you're kind of breaking up with who you used to be and that kind of thing. I think ultimately the positive undercurrent of the sun is really going to be supporting us in being able to process what comes up around this and make those decisions that are in our highest and best good, and also be able to really come into right relationship with our feminine energy. Because again, with the moon, this is talking about the divine feminine in many ways, especially when we have the sun popping up here. And if we're healing the mother wound by illuminating our shadows and stuff like that, then we can have like the sun and the moon, it's kind of like almost like a little bit of a divine union vibe to a certain extent within your own energy body, right? Because we have the solar channel and the lunar channel of the energy body. Everyone has it. So it's like the active and receptive modes of being. And this is really helping us heal our feminine energy to where we can be receptive to things, that it's going to be the right things. We're able to discern what we want to receive that's in alignment with who we truly are. And I do think that it's going to be ultimately very cathartic. I do see this as a very interesting initiation into greater energetic awareness for a lot of people. I think that some people will be experiencing activations in their energy field that they can't really deny, especially if you are someone maybe like who you haven't spent a lot of time doing this work. Like, I'd be interested for your feedback on this. But that's what I have for you, everyone, today for Mars and Cancer. As always, I'm Serpentine, your guide through the game of life. If this reading resonated with you, come check us out over on Twitch, twitch.tv/serpentinerising, where I go live 3 times a week giving these readings live. And if you're here on YouTube, hello, welcome to my channel. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. I am trying to grow my channel over here, and anything that you would like to help me out with on that will be very much appreciated. If you would like a personal session, I do offer private one-on-one sessions. You can find me over at mythichearts.com/levelup. I also have some mini pre-recorded oracle options in my shop. So if you want something that's a bit more straight to the point, or you don't have a lot of money and you want to just get a quick check-in, head on over to my shop, mythichearts.com/shop. I have 3 different mini oracle options available in there that are like based on RPG items, basically from Final Fantasy. And check me out on social media at serpentine.rising on Instagram and TikTok, and at Time Priestess on X. And that's all I got for you. Until the next time I see you, may your heart lead on the path of destiny. And I'll see you in the next one.